looking for Derek early. Hayward gets it into the post to him. Pushed out by Millsap. Straightens up on the elbow. Drives, spins into traffic. Powers it to the rack and finishes. Ooh, ferocious favors for two.
A little daily DeVar action for you. Plus, we'll hear from Dante Exum talking about playing off the ball. Gordon Hayward comments from Coach K. The Spurs are ahead of the curve and more. A big day of somehow a lot of stuff on August 6th for tip-off. Hope you're well. I'm David Locke. Somebody is trying to reach me on a tip-off. They haven't figured out how to join in yet. They just called me. No, it's all right. We'll all figure it out one day. Hope you're great. Hope you enjoyed the John Schumann podcast. Thanks so much to everybody who sent John a thank you. He's new to the podcast. He kind of did it on a whim. We were about to go back and forth on Twitter, and I get nervous about sounding like a jerk when the 140 characters are being involved, and thought it'd be good to have him on. So hopefully you caught that. Here's what we have today. We'll talk about the Spurs being ahead of the curve. Dante Exum comments a little bit about playing off the ball. His childhood hero. Some comments from Coach K about Gordon Hayward that I thought were really interesting, plus some other Coach K stuff. Great shot by a Minnesota columnist on the ownership of the Timberwolves, and then a thought on sponsorship versus teams and why the max contract maybe should go away. Plus, we'll take your questions. So it's all here on today's edition of Tip Off. Thanks for tuning in wherever you might be. Our daily DeVar today, twofold. I mean, two of them. The favors highlight was kind of a tip of that. Derek hosted a terrific event yesterday at the Zions Bank Center for the Boys and Girls Club. Gave them kids all backpacks that were filled with school supplies and great, cool-looking backpacks, and gave them experiences on the floor and got those kids excited and ready for school. It was a great event. I've always felt as though I always get nervous when NBA teams try to kind of extend beyond just being a basketball team. And so I love when we do things that are putting the courts in was one of the better things I've seen us do. I like these kind of things. Hey, come and see us, but we're basketball. We're going to get you excited for school, give you some supplies. Things like that. Those are great programs. Obviously, if the Jazz lend their name to something, it obviously great credibility. The amount of money the Miller family donates and does behind the scenes on things you have no idea about. I have the itchiest outside of my nose. Is just incredible. And to see Derek in that setting, you get an idea of who he is. He's really a wonderful, wonderful guy. So tip of the hat to that. The other one was that Jeremy Evans, I guess, broke 100 junior Jazz events yesterday. And then just to make it a little better, because Jeremy seemingly can't stop at being the best person I've ever met. He has to keep going. His mom came out to see him do a junior Jazz event. Like, think about this for a second. So not only is Jeremy willing to take time to go to the smallest towns of Utah and drive around in the heat and everything else, and just it's not a particularly comfortable, fun trip, because he loves working with these kids and being involved like this and doing these kind of things. But he loves it so much that he told his mom she's got to come see it. Can you be a better dude? It is just terrific. So those are our two daily DeVars to start the day. Dante Exum was quoted in shoot, I should have, I got to give people credit, and I don't think I have it up. I apologize. Don't beat the hype, I think it is. You know what, if you give me a second, I should really have this. Let me see if I can find that really quickly. I think it was Don't Beat the Hype or something of that sort. Did a conversation with him out in Australia. There's a bunch of really good basketball sites, Australia, I'm just learning about. BelieveTheHypeNBA.com. BelieveTheHypeNBA.com. And the interview was done by Tom Reed, who you can follow on Twitter, TRA Reed. TRAREAD. So, feel free to catch him. He's got about 47,000 tweets and 1,700 followers. So it'd be nice if you added him on board. But so here's some of the things Dante said. They talked a little bit about Dante playing off the ball. And he said, yeah, it's all about being adaptable. That's what I've tried to take into my game. I try to get back on the ball as much as possible when I can. but I can't get into an NBA team and kind of demand to do what I want. So it's just a process of trying to start to slowly get the ball and earn the trust of the guys. It's a good quote. Tells you a lot about Dante. It also tells you Dante wants the ball. But yeah, it's about being adaptable. So it's about doing what I don't want to do. That's what I've tried to take into my game. I've tried to get back on the ball as much as possible when I can. But, I can't get into the NBA team and kind of demand to do what I want. So it's just a process of trying to start slowly to get the ball and earn the trust of the guys. It's a great answer, but it also tells you what he wants. In regards to whether the Australian teams play similarly to the Jazz, he said it's definitely a very similar system. I'm getting to play a little more in it, and definitely this tournament is going to give me a good opportunity to go back to Utah, already be placed in this type of system, know the ins and outs of what I can do to succeed. So good stuff there. A different article on Dante Exum was interesting. He talked about his childhood favorite players, Derrick Rose, and the idea of getting to finally play Derrick Rose has him quite excited along the way. So he's, we've heard Kobe, now we've heard Derrick Rose. He certainly has been following American basketball. This is being in Australia, his dad being a U.S. college player. There aren't a lot of hidden aspects to this world to Dante, other than I think he just, he hasn't experienced it, but he certainly is excited for it and gets going. I thought Coach K was really interesting about Gordon. What I love is his versatility, the fact he's 6'8" and strong. I think he's more decisive, stronger, he's a better player, and I think he'll continue to grow. Just like all these guys, they've got a chance to make the team, but as far as his own team, I think the coaching change, I think Quinn will be really good for Gordon in helping him improve even more. He can become an even better player because he's still young and wants to, but we like him a lot. I like his future, especially working with Coach Quinn Snyder. So pretty interesting comment. I thought was also interesting. He said, I really like his versatility is really something that we like, and his toughness. He had a good scrimmage on Friday as well. Toughness is not a word that's been with Gordon Hayward very often. In fact, the exact opposite. He has often been known to kind of be punked, whether it's the finger in the ear or guys just getting up on him. So I think that's really interesting to hear from Coach Krzyzewski in regards to Gordon. We think he's versatile. We think he's one of the very good young players in the league, Coach K went on to say. So some really nice comments for Gordon. And, this is a big deal, guys. This is really a big deal. If Gordon could make this team, it helps him. Players, John Schumann documented really well players who've exploded out of this. Gordon's never going to change. Gordon's not going to become LeBron. He's not going to become Carmelo. But he can make incremental steps. We have the base of who he is as a player. That's been established. His athleticism is not going to change dramatically at this point. But what you're going to get now is he gets a little stronger, he gets a little smarter, he gets a little more confidence, has more experiences, and so he incrementally improves. But his incremental improvements move him from a nice player to a really, really good player. Probably not a number one guy. There aren't a lot of those guys in the league. But maybe a number two. And maybe, and really just a beginning to be a really fabulous player that helps teams win. And what I see out of Gordon is there's a chance he becomes that player whose team, no one's quite sure really how good he is, right? That those guys, frankly, Scottie Pippen was probably this guy for a long time where he's just doing a lot of stuff and you realize, wow, he's really helping this team. I'm not always sure how. But I think that's kind of where Gordon could head in that direction, just as an incredibly versatile wing creator, rebounder, passer, ability to score in these incremental. He's shown even in a time of dress 16, 5, and 5, which I hate those numbers on. I mean, if someone's got to score and rebound on bad teams, so I hate that. But he's shown, things he can now, a little bit stronger, 230, a little bit more confident U.S. team, a little bit better experience, makes pass a little quicker, sees a shot a little better, one better decision, turnovers drop a little, points increase, rebounds up a little bit, assists, versatility, just boom. And all of a sudden, those tiny little incremental steps change him from being, I don't know how, I'm trying to avoid it, but I mean, so right now let's call him a top 30 player in the NBA and becomes a top 15 player in the NBA, right? I mean, I think that's what you're talking about. And that's a pretty big deal if he can do that. So this is huge. In regards to Damian Lillard, Coach K said we're not going to be able to keep all those guys, but everyone played very well on the point guards. Now, he said this after the Wall cut, so I thought it implied almost another cut to be had. Derrick Rose and Kyrie Irving are both in pretty good standing on this team, so it could be really hard for Lillard. And with Steph being able to play, he says you come up with the core 8, 7 or 8, or 7 to 9. So that's, Derrick Rose, Anthony Davis, Kevin Durant, James Harden, Kyrie Irving. I've taken down my list, so I don't have it in front of me. But you start to find this core 8. He says in the Olympics only last times, Coach K said there's only 3 guys averaged over 20 minutes: Chris Paul, Kevin Durant, and LeBron. So going forward, you have to assume that that's going to be kind of the same thing. So who fits in? A few guys who can play none or limited minutes. Some come up with a core group who haven't come up yet. And then how the remaining 3 or 4 guys, how they fit in. How do they complement the core 8? It's not about getting 12 players, 12 best players, and how they fit in. So that's really nice for Kyle Korver. That's really nice for Kenneth Faried. And I think that's really nice for Gordon Hayward. The fact he can play the 2, the 3, or the 4. He's played some off the bench before. He doesn't have to score to be successful. I think that's the scenario. And it's pretty exciting to see Gordon in that circumstance. The other quote of interest was about Derrick Rose. He said Derrick was sensational this week. He really did that every day. How fast and strong and decisive was. He really created an air of excitement for the team because all of us were anxious to see what he has right now, and he's very, very good. We're ecstatic about it and so happy for him. And in addition, and really, that puts Chicago as the favorite in the East. If Derrick Rose is right, frankly, if Derrick Rose is right, the East might not be close. Remember the last time Derrick Rose was right, Chicago won 60 games. The East might not be close. With Joakim Noah, Taj Gibson, Pau Gasol added, Miričić coming in, there's not another team in the Eastern Conference that I think is above a 55-win caliber team. I think Cleveland, when they add Love, will be interesting, but it's going to take David Blatt some time as a first-year coach. It's going to take that team some time to gel. They have no rim protection at all. They're going to. LeBron's brilliant. They're going to I think they're going to be in a 55-win caliber team for the first time together as they go through that. Only because I just think LeBron automatically puts you there. And so it should be interesting to see. But then I don't think there's another team with Paul George out in Indiana that's maybe even a 50-win team in the East. Is there? Is there another 50-win team in the East? Whereas, in the West, I think we got 8 or 9 50-win teams. This was just awesome. This is from Jim Soheim, a columnist for the Minnesota Star Tribune, about the Kevin Love situation, and tells you a little bit about where the Timberwolves are as a franchise. To recap recent developments in the Kevin Love saga, he writes, the owner of the Minneapolis Star Tribune leaked to the paper's prime competitor that the news that the star player for the NBA team he owns indeed will be traded, even though the NBA, which has punished the owner before breaking rules, forbids confrontation. Let me restart this because I've screwed it up. It's just, you got to listen closely. It's probably better to read than listen, but it's an awesome one. To recap recent developments in the Kevin Love saga, the owner of the Minneapolis Star Tribune leaked to the paper's prime competitor the news that the star player for the NBA team he owns indeed will be traded, even though the NBA, which has punished the owner before for breaking rules, forbids confirmation of this deal at this point. Now the Star Tribune and the Minnesota Timberwolves can commiserate and agree it's good to be in competition with Glenn Taylor. That's by a writer he owns, basically. He continues that the Wolves would trade Love to Cleveland has seemed likely for weeks. Now that we know how the mystery is going to end, we can better guess who the winners and losers will be. Winner, Kevin Love. In Minnesota, he was asked to elevate a horrid franchise and was tainted by its failures. Loser, Kevin Love. Playing with LeBron and Kyrie Irving, he will no longer be allowed to act like a put-upon lonely star who will be treated like Ernest Biner if he fails to hustle back on defense, or if he is bleeding to the refs, costs his team a basket. If the Cavs fail, it will be Love's fault. That's pretty good, right on, interesting points there. I was all set to answer questions today. None have come in, and I kind of failed a bunch of our people last time because I didn't get any questions in. I have some more stats and data I was going to get to as well, but I can also, do some things, check out some old things. I would say I made a comment the other day, and I owe this guy at least this response. Charles Bernard has done an incredible job at the Locked On Sports Google Plus community for RSL Soccer, and I made the comment the other day I have rule changes I would make to the game, and he was like, actually, I'm curious. None of them would be soccer, but I also would change baseball at this point. So to clarify this, with baseball, actually, I just suddenly realized I haven't touched on the Becky Hammon story. Let me back up. I want to get on the Becky Hammon story. I left that for last, and I just about missed it. The Spurs have hired. Wow, that was like full class my brain right there. The Spurs have hired longtime WNBA star, all-star, great woman who I know well, Becky Hammon, to be an assistant coach. This is a no-brainer, guys. This is so crazily long overdue and amazingly sexist that this has not happened before. It is so long overdue. The fact that every team has been hiring just half the talent out there. And the idea that somehow you think that male NBA players won't listen to women coaches when a large percentage of them have been raised by women, taught by women in schools, is equally as laughable and unreal that actually comment can be made and taken as a fact in a lot of places. Well, I don't know if he'll listen. So the idea in this day and age where more women are graduating from college, more women are graduating from graduate school, more women end up running companies, that guys that are athletes somehow aren't going to listen to women. First of all, the idea that someone could just make the comment that, well, he's not going to listen to someone solely based on her sex, to me seems a bit outdated. So the fact that finally some NBA team has decided to widen their talent pool of potential coaches to 100% of the potential populace seems to me to be rather groundbreaking and long overdue. So congratulations to the San Antonio Spurs for finally checking in on reality. I've been around basketball for a long time. Some of the best basketball coaches I've ever coached, been around coaching, have coached in the women's game, and some of them have been women. There's absolutely no reason why they can't see the NBA game, the talent of dribbling a basketball or shooting or coaching any of that stuff in the exact same fashion. No differently than a major company in America or anywhere in the world, diversity in your workforce leads to better ideas, better ways to communicate, and better mechanisms. Why an NBA team wouldn't be the same, to me, crazy. So it's about time that somebody stepped forward. And with the rise of the WNBA and the rise of coaches that exist in that and talent, it increases even more. Jenny Bouchek, who's now an assistant coach with the Seattle Storm, was a scout in the NBA prior, which again, she was the only woman scout. Why possibly do men have an ability to view a basketball game and somehow scout talent better than women who've also played the game? It absolutely makes no sense at all on any of those things. And equally as much to evaluating talent, again, maybe the divergence of skills, the difference in skills, the ability to notice different things about someone would make you even more valuable. The NBA is the leader and the most progressive league in the world on race relations, on diversity, on those things, except for on the women's end of things. They're no different than just about any other sport. They got their head in their sand. They think it's an old boys club. It's not. This is a huge step for the San Antonio Spurs, and I hope other people follow. There. That wasn't written, actually. All I had written was Becky Hammon, but I knew I felt passionately about it. I guess I now know what I think about it. So anyway, I need to wrap this up pretty soon, but back to Charles Bernard and what he asked me the other day. Ways I would change it. So here I would actually do, let me share because the concepts, I think both baseball and soccer, and I understand soccer's growing and baseball's fading, but I think both of them have some excitement problems that don't match the American fan populace anymore. Baseball's just gotten too slow. It's gotten too old. There's a certain line also, by the way, that I believe strongly in regards to sports, that you have to have an ability for the ticker to be going on the bottom line of ESPN to make you turn on a game. So the first thing I would say on that is in baseball, I would actually do the following. If a player starts the game, he must have one at-bat. That's it. One at-bat. If I go to an NBA game and want to watch LeBron, I get to see him take somewhere between 20 and 25 shots and make 30 to 40 plays a game. If I go to a Los Angeles Angels baseball game to see Mike Trout, I get to see him hit 4 times. Doesn't work. I want to see Mike Trout hit 9 times. Frankly, I want to see Mike Trout hit 18 times. Probably the rule would have to be that a player can only hit once per inning. Not sure why. Why shouldn't I just have Mike Trout, Mike Trout, and Mike Trout? If he gets out all 3 times, then we move to the next one. Okay, maybe it's only 9 at-bats per inning. It adds a strategy. It adds an interest to it. You open up your lineup. Maybe you hit your leadoff guy to lead off every inning, so I see him 9 times. Every player, though, who starts has to at-bat once. You could run through your lineup once and then get creative. You could run through your lineup once and then, I don't know, let's say Mike Trout gets out, and if you're loose with the rules, the runners on second, third, 2 outs, you bring Mike Trout up. Even better, if you do this right, every time Mike Trout bats, it's exciting. Right? Trout, why not? Baseball's playing guys with no max contract. Let's make those stars even more important. Baseball has a problem that there aren't enough stars and there isn't enough offense. Offensive stars, the stars of the game are Clayton Kershaw and Felix Hernandez, Justin Verlander, David Price. There aren't enough Mike Trout and Bryce Harper. I got it. But you don't see him enough. So that's what I would do to baseball. The second thing I would do to baseball is if you're tied after 9 innings, you play a home run derby. Bring the long ball back. Make it important. That's what people like. To that point of soccer, people like scoring. And I want to see the best players get the ball on their feet and go play. I would probably restrict players to one side of the field if I was suddenly making the rules of soccer. I would probably put 5 guys that are defense players, 5 guys on offense, because one thing I really hate about soccer as a non-fan is when the ball comes off the field, particularly if someone's up 1-0 or 2-0 or 2-1 or it's late, there's 8 guys in the goal box defensively. There's no movement. I don't get to see guys' skills. I don't get to see greatness. I don't get to see open floor one-on-one, open field one-on-one. I don't get to see what I would think would be the beautiful game that everyone talks about that I don't see. So why not put 5 guys on offense and 5 guys on defense? That would be my first thing. I'd get rid of offsides if obviously it increases scoring, it adds a drama to it. If I was basketball, I would take the soccer rule that the minute the ball goes out of bounds. International basketball has a referee doesn't have to touch it. If he just signals and you can go. I like that. The other one on soccer is I would, and this has been talked about a lot, the penalty kicks are awful, so similar to hockey, I would reduce, if you go to overtime, I would play 4-on-4 on each side, and then after 10 minutes of overtime or 20 minutes of overtime, I go to 3-on-3 on whatever, however you want to do it, on each side, and just create these opportunities for great players to use their skills. I think both baseball and soccer have a problem, if they're going to make another jump, of having the best players in positions enough time. Both baseball players and soccer fans are sitting here saying, okay, just back off and be creative about your game. I'm not saying I'm right, but they're certainly ideas and they have some value. All right, so that was a different thing I plan to talk about. I will talk to you tomorrow. Hope you're well.